And can't shake hands. We do the live long and prosper.
Hello, and welcome everyone. And I'm so excited because we are doing this. It was a very, very spontaneous idea, and so many people around the world are giving free content, are giving their time to help, to give tips, to give tools, to let the people cope with the situation, because for many people, the situation is not an easy one. A situation that they've never encountered before. So it is great, and I'm absolutely amazed at how many of my friends and colleagues worldwide have stepped in here to say, let me give you half an hour of tips. Let me give you something that you can use to just feel more calm, relaxed, or deal with fear, like we will hear today. Today with us, Dr. Will Horton. Now, I am absolutely amazed to have you with us today. Dr. Will Horton is a licensed psychologist. He's also an expert in the field of NLP, of hypnosis. Everybody who knows NLP will know his name. I know that was a generalization, but still. I will repeat that. So I've known you, I think, about 15 years. And, it's not about only NLP. What he is, he's an actor also, by the way. He's a funny guy. And I remember sitting in that class of NLP about 15 years ago and totally amazed and fascinated by just how you speak and how you just got us all involved. And you are an expert in, you've been researching change and rapid change for a long time. And I think that's what just happened to not only to me, but I think the whole NLP class at that point was just transformed within minutes. So I want to let you do your magic today. And I'll leave the floor to you. To you. Sorry.
Okay.
I will make you the host right now. And so for everybody who's watching, thank you very, very much for being here. I know we have people from all over the world. And if you want, you can just type in where you're from and what your name is, so we know who is here and who's joining us. And over to you, Will.
All right. Well, how's everybody doing? I'm clicking my screen because I'm going to do a PowerPoint. I hope you don't mind. And I do these because I have a tendency to get off track. So this keeps me on track. And when I was asked to do this, can everybody see my screen? Just give a thumbs up if you could see the, okay, great. About this, it's your life. I thought I would do one on fear, and a subject I'm intimately aware of, obviously, right? But how about owning it? It's your life, let's own it. And so, again, I'm Dr. Will. I've been doing this for way too long, like 36 or 37 years, if not a little bit longer. Before that, I was an alcohol and drug counselor. But anyway, we're going to have some fun and talk about some things. And we're going to do a technique, kind of a new technique. I call it the magic mirror of crisis technique, right? I've been doing this with some people, so we're going to do it and have some fun. But anyway, when we're in this kind of state, right, the whole world's in crisis. One of the first things we have to realize is we're not alone. Humans have a tendency to take this and internalize it to the point where I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one freaking out for whatever reason, right? But we're not alone. But as it's within, so without, as they say. And what we have, in the NLP world, we talk about the triage of your internal state, affects your internal representations, which affects your external behavior, which again affects your internal state, which affects your internal. So we get each one is going on. And all it takes is a change in one for the whole thing to either work well or not work well. But most of us aren't taught this message on how to do this kind of stuff. But let's talk a little bit about fear. Fear activates areas of the brain that is beyond our normal conscious control. the nucleus accumbens, the amygdala, the hippocampus, a few other areas. I'm not going to do a biology lesson, but once your fear kicks in, your consciousness is overridden most of the time, right? Because it overrides your reticular activating system. One of my favorite topics in the world is your reticular activating system, that part of your brain that makes sense out of the whole external world. And when you're in fear, that part of your brain is hijacked, so you go into fight, flight, or freeze, which we hear about, and it causes you more fear, and it has to do with survivability, right? But basically, when you go into fight or flight, especially, two systems are activated. Just to give you some background: the sympathetic nervous system, and the adrenal I can never say that, cortical system, right? And this is why you get into fear and you stay there. These are basically the primitive, the primate and the mammalian parts of your brain. That's misspelled, so ignore that and spell it right when you re-see it, right? But then what really happens, it activates the reptilian brain, the deep part of your mind, right? When you get a fight or flight, you're kind of in that survivability mode. This is your primate or your mammalian brain, and you want to run away or you want to fight. When your reptilian brain kicks in, you freeze, right? If you scare a lizard, they freeze. Miss Campbell here in Florida, we got these wonderful geckos everywhere, right? And when you see them, these little lizards, and you scare them, they freeze, right? Because most of the predators that kill those things, hunt by movement. So they freeze. Snakes freeze. All these animals freeze. Well, we have that part of our brain. That's why when you're under big threat, you have a tendency to freeze, right? And its only job is to keep you alive. When this part of your brain kicks in, it only wants to keep you alive. So one of the first things it's going to do is focus on more threats. Everything becomes a threat. When you're in fear, everything becomes a threat. It may or may not really be, but you're going to perceive it that way, and it causes you to stay in the negative, right? And put your body on high alert. And you have to remember, when this happens, all change becomes threatening, right? And we're trying to get people to change, but change itself is part of the threat matrix, right? It's part of the esoteric threat, as they call it, right? So you will resist change, right? And the older you are, the more you resist change, right? By the way, I could do a whole thing on how this part of your brain is. You need to learn how to use this if you want to get more sales in your practice, in your clinic, in your classes, right? But it shuts down the higher frontal cortex of your mind. When you're in fear, you're not making rational decisions. We all know that, right? But the interesting thing that begins to happen, you begin to not challenge any of the threat information coming in, right? And this can lead to since you're losing control, all this threats coming in, people have a tendency to do over control in areas of their life where they can grab control. That's why we're seeing people hoard toilet paper, right? Which is kind of fascinating. It's a respiratory virus. It's not going to give you the runs, for God's sakes, but you can control that. And then what happens when you're in the store and you see someone buying like 4 rolls of toilet paper, if you could tell they're in their reptilian brain, I'm going to buy 8, I'm going to buy 12, whatever it is, right? And even though pretty much across the world, they're telling us the supply chain is not broken. The supply chain is not broken. People are hoarding, I don't know if anybody else on this call is from Florida, but like Elizabeth and I know, like when a hurricane comes, right, the supply chain breaks for a few days. You don't get gasoline. We don't get, things like that. And that's why people hoard. But that's why they're doing it in that case. But in this case, it's a control mechanism. Another analogy will be those of us that's raised children. If you raise children, raise your hand. I can see some people on the call, right? When your kids hit adolescence, especially that 14 to 16, and they start pushing back and telling you to screw off, you try to grab more control, don't you? Right? And it's the natural pushback between the loss of control, right? And the fear. You fear for your kids. So many parents, the whole helicopter parent thing is over control, right? And so, does that make sense to everybody? This is why we get stuck in this area. I find it fascinating, right? And it creates a negative feedback loop. once this happens, then your internal state is on that heightened alert. All this adrenaline's in your system, testosterone's flowing, men and women, right? And so then your internal representations go to shit. There's no other way to describe it. Everything's a threat. Everybody's going to die, right? You will disregard, the fact that, to the best of my knowledge, and talking to some people I know that are doctors, almost like 99% of the deaths are also attributed to comorbid factors, right? Heart disease, uncontrollable diabetes. If you have any kind of lung disorder like COPD or things like that, then the death rate is higher, right? One of the reasons in Italy it was so high, they smoke a lot of cigarettes, right? And it hit the part of the country that was older, right? But you see the number, and then people take the numbers out of context. So your internal state's on heightened. You see those numbers. Oh my God, that means, 6 out of fucking every 10 people are going to die. Oh my God, and people are running around like crazy. And so your external behavior feeds into that, right? And then again, when you're outside and you see people and they seem in fear, it makes you in more fear, right? Does that make sense to everybody, right? Now I'll show you how to fix it, but it's fascinating to me. Right? I had to go to the pet food store to get some bird food. We have a macaw, right? And I grabbed the bird food and I'm walking to the front, and it kind of broke my heart because I'm watching everybody freak out. And one of the good things about being in combat arms in the military is it teaches you a little bit on how to handle stress, right? But anyway, I'm watching, and there was a lady there. I still remember she had the mask on, right? She had goggles, right? The double gloves and all this. And what really broke my heart when I looked at her, the terror in her eyes. I've seen that a few times in my life, the absolute abject terror in her eyes. Maybe she had a compromised immune system. Maybe there's other stuff. I don't know. But, I'm just walking up with my little big ass bag of bird feed, and she like jumped back, right, looking at me. And it broke my heart, right? It just did. It just because I don't think anybody's shown her how to control her fear. Right? And the fear will kill you. The first thing that goes down when you're in that state is your immune system shuts down. Your immune system shuts down, puts all the blood into your extremities to keep you alive, to fight, flight, or freeze. So it's doing the opposite of what you want when there's a viral epidemic. You want to keep your immune system high. She's in terror. Her immune system, if it wasn't compromised before, it's compromised when you're in that state. Right? And so, I'm watching this, and it's fascinating to me, right? So when you're in survival, you revert to all those things, that are bad for you, right? And you don't want to challenge information. And then what happens in our mind, we fall into a couple of things. In our DNA it's written into our DNA, we want to be part of a group, right? Because outcasts die. If you get thrown out of the tribe, the village, the group, the family, you die, right? And so what happens is you want to be part of it, right? And so you can keep people in control by using force, right? But just as effective, anybody raised in a lot of families, shame and guilt work quite well to keep people in control, right? And in fact, if you do it right, the shame and guilt becomes internalized and you don't have to do it, right? And again, it doesn't matter if it's a real or a vividly imagined event, but so that's what we want to begin to control. So that's why we and we're seeing it now with anyone questioning anything. They're being shamed. They're being you should feel guilty for questioning anything. It's just, to me, part of that's just fascinating, right? But we need to break the cycle. Let's get to what we want to talk to. So that's a little bit about how fear works, right? Fear works. But fear generates massive physical energy, right? Again, it's there to keep you alive. It's what it's there to do, right? Athletes, you always hear athletes talk about they don't want to get rid of all the fear before a game. Performers talk about, Elizabeth was a dancer, right? See, I remember everybody. So I always heard it said in my world, of the acting world, is if you ever don't have pre-performance butterflies, something's wrong, right? because it gives you that energy. It gives you that focus. It's a little bit of fear. If you have a little bit of fear, you could focus it. So a little bit's good, but when it cascades and you get that terror response, that's not good. You don't want to walk out on stage and freeze, forget your dance moves or your lines. Trust me, I've done both. But so we want to use that fear. That's where athletes want to generate their fear into a heightened state of performers, right? Because if you don't, the side effects are you get chronic fatigue. Anybody on this call beginning to experience chronic fatigue? I am, right? Because it's never, the news is just constantly coming at us. You're not sleeping right. You're not eating right, maybe. Even though you're on lockdown and we got food, it just gives you chronic physical exhaustion. And then the mental exhaustion comes in, So how do you change it, right? First, you have to accept the fear. You have to embrace the fear. Then you have to channel the fear, right? Sounds easy. It's not, right? That's what they do in combat training. You're going to be afraid. If bullets are flying and you're not afraid, you're an idiot, right? And those are a different level of threat than what we're experiencing now. But you have to accept it that you're going to be afraid, and you got to learn to use it. Fear is never going to go away, and you can somewhat embrace it to channel that energy so you can perform better, right? And that's what we're going to talk about, right? Because I like to think of fear as focused energy achieves results if it's channeled the right way, right? If you channel it into something, you can achieve something. If you don't, you're going to basically burn out on your own. And one way to do that, it's kind of a 12-step approach to life. If anybody here is familiar with the 12-step program, is know that life is currently out of your control. We can't control what's going on with the virus, with our governments, with world travel, with this, with that. Like a lot of us, I went from having let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conferences scheduled where I had training, 5 other trainings scheduled that just went, right? Yeah, big part of my income, if not almost all of it, just, and will it come back? Right? I don't know. And, but it's out of my control, right? And so what can I do to challenge the fear that I'm getting, the info that I'm getting, And basically it's to pull back and look non-emotionally at it, right? If anybody in the room has been trained in combat, what's one of the things they say is you pull back and you're just trying to make non-emotional decisions, right? Which is hard to do when if you're in a heightened state, right? And the way you do that is, what's the true threat assessment here, right? What's the true threat assessment, right? And not to say that the media is like driving this, but their viewership is up, right? Because how many you flip on just to get it? But there's breaking news after these announcements. Tough crowd. I'm here till Friday. Tell your friends. Anyway, so look at it like, what is the true threat analysis, right? Right. Some of the things we can do, and then we'll do a technique, is to try to keep a schedule as much as you can. It's one of the things that happen when you get on lockdown. If you're not used to it, they try to keep you on a schedule. A place to learn that from is the military. They always keep you on a schedule, right? And it seems to work. You come back from the field, from a combat mission, you go back into the area, but they keep you on a schedule, right? They keep you on an operational schedule. You hear that a lot in the military because it just works. And if we have and those of us that went to offices or had certain things, that's what you're really missing, is that schedule, right? And so you have to have some fun built into your schedule, right? Whether it's watch a movie, do something for fun. Too many people right now, I just read a thing that people are getting into production overload. They think, because I got all this time, I should be writing 12 books and doing 27 goddamn classes and doing all this other stuff, right? So don't get locked into that. I should be more productive than normal, right? Pick a goal that you can work on during this time. Could be a book, working on a book, reading a book, working on a book, whatever it is. Movie, unfortunately, I also was cast in 2 movies that got put on hold. But, you know, and make sure you do some exercise, you know. I've been using this time. I started my Taibo again, right? Because I also, a few months ago, tore my Achilles tendon. So I still can't walk very well. So I'm using this time because I wouldn't do Taibo or go back to karate because I'm egotistical and I don't like falling over in front of people. But when I'm doing my Taibo in the other room right there, the only one watching me is the one dog, right? So I'm like struggling to keep on my one foot because I don't have the core strength and the balance in my leg. So anyway, so use this time as best you can, right? So now we're going to do a technique. I call it the magic mirror for crisis. Let me move this up a little bit. Great. And yes, I spell magic the way my wife absolutely hates. It's like real magic, right? So if you're going to do this, and by the way, if anybody on this, if you watch this or a video replay, if you get a hold of me, I'll send you the PowerPoint if you want it. I don't care, right? So maybe you could redo parts of it for your group. But we're going to do this, right? So I'm going to walk everybody through the technique, right? So what I want everybody to do is sit back, close your eyes. And I want you to imagine you're looking in the mirror and you see yourself as you are right now today, right? Everybody's at least got a nice top on because we're being videotaped from the waist up, right? I'm sitting here with my NFNLP shirt, but trust me, I've got shorts and no shoes on because I'm in Florida. But what I want you to do is when you see yourself as you are right now, realize that's a snapshot in time, right? And what I mean by that, when you're seeing that image of you as best you can, that's not how you look 6 months ago. And it's not how you're going to look in the future, right? And if you think when you see yourself in the mirror right now, it's even not how you were, say, a month ago, pre-crisis, you know? And this is just a true fact. Whenever you see yourself, it's just a snapshot in time. The way you look right now, your entire life right now, is a culmination of everything that's happened up to this point. That's all. But what I want you to do is realize as you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing yourself as you are today, that's not who you're going to be in just a few weeks or a couple of months. So what I'd like you to do is imagine as you're looking in the mirror, what if you could see through this glass? Like a little bit of it was see-through glass, see-through mirror, like you see on the TV shows, cop shows, where you can look through it. And what you see behind it is the you that's gotten through this, the you that's fine, the you that's maybe channeled some of this fear and energy into accomplishing just a couple of simple goals. Maybe read a couple extra books, took a couple online classes, maybe tried some online exercise you wouldn't normally do, you know. And that you on the other side also realizes in a weird way, this is the best time in the world that we've had to this point to be locked down. We're on the computer. You have access to information all over the world, access to people all over the world. You know, if this would have happened 30 years ago, it would have been a much different thing. So realize this you on the other side of the glass has accomplished this, has worked through it, and that you is fine. Now, as you're seeing yourself as you are today, but right behind it in that mirror is the you you're going to be. What if you were surrounded by mirrors? There's one to the left, there's one to the right, there's one behind you. Kind of like how you try clothes on in a good clothes in a fancy store, so you can see yourself from all angles. Good. But now what I'd like you to do is shatter the illusion of what's going on. The way you are today is just a snapshot in time. So shatter that mirror, maybe with your hand, maybe take a rock, maybe use a hammer, right? And as that does, the mirrors begin to shatter all around you, to the left, to the right, behind you, in front. And it reveals this new snapshot in time that you're moving toward, that you will get through this, that you will thrive, not just survive. You will thrive, not just survive. You will program yourself for success, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial success. Always remembering as you look through this and see this new you, that many fortunes and careers are made in times of crisis. And as you're thinking this, I want you to say in your mind with me, I don't know how this will work. I just know it will. And my higher power is working through this thing. And I am grateful for all the learnings in this experience. And again, as you see this new you, the you that's taking shape, maybe it's a little fuzzy right now because this snapshot in time hasn't happened yet, but it's forming. And you think, I don't know how this will work. I just know it will. And my higher power is working through it for my highest good. And I am grateful for all the learnings in this experience. And then just let it go. Good. And now realize one more time that you're programming yourself for success, that the fear is normal, it's natural, but you're beginning to channel it in a different way. You're beginning to become who and what you want to be. Now, take a nice deep breath. Open your eyes. Come on back. All right. All right. For my old students, I got to do my, how was that? Was it good for you? Was it good for you? It was good for me. Tough crowd for the people that don't know me. This, yeah, I'm a, yes, highly paid mental health professional. So anyway, here's my contact info. If anybody wants it, you know, my main website is NFNLP. I'm Dr. Will at Real NLP for Twitter, Instagram, Dr. Will Horton, Facebook. I don't know what it is on Facebook. I always forget. And one of my big passions now is I'm doing online addiction treatment. So do I have to hand back?
I think I'm still here. Do you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
I hear you.
yes.
I will stop the share.
Yeah.
There you go. So there we are.
Yeah, you're back in your Star Trek ship. Thank you so much, Will. This was like fabulous. This was really appropriate for this time because so many people are going through fear now, you know. So I think this was exactly what everybody wants to hear. And, you know, seeing yourself in that mirror and really realizing that this is just a snapshot was just fabulous.
I got to say one thing. I was at a meeting.
Yeah.
And there was a guy there and we were talking. He goes, you know, it's weird. And I go, what? And he goes, not everybody will understand this, but you might, right? He's a younger guy. He's in his late 30s. He goes, he's done 3 combat tours, right? 1 in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq. And he goes like this. This feels normal to me.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, I could relate to that. You know, the whole threat matrix and everybody. So anyway.
Yeah. This was Dr. Will Horton with you, expert in the field of NLP, the founder of the NFNLP. So everybody who's studying NLP with either one of, many people here will probably have their certificates through you and will know you in some way. Also, like you mentioned before, he is an expert with addictions. So, you know, anything with addictions, just go to his website, just ask him for questions, just get his courses. As I said before, the courses are fun, they're entertaining, and you learn a lot. Thank you so much, Will, for today.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone else for joining.